In the wake of Tim Burton's Batman achieving huge box office results in 1989, a wave of pulp superhero films were quick to follow in the early 1990s. Unfortunately, all three big films in this genre ended up achieving mediocre returns at box office. The Rocketeer did poorly, The Shadow did even worse, and yet neither of them bombed as hard as today's film.
Ho 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 ho! Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we're going to be looking at one of the most underrated superhero films of all time. The Phantom is a 1996 pulp superhero film directed by Simon Windsor, the Australian filmmaker behind such films as Lightning Jack and Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, two of Paul Hogan's absolute worst films.
Whoa! Oh! You know, I never walk out of a movie, but yuck!
He also directed the box office hit Free Willy and the cult classic box office bomb Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, a film that I didn't mind when I was younger but have definitely grown out of. The Phantom is probably his best film in my opinion. Today's film is based on a comic strip that we should probably all be familiar with because it's been getting published consistently on a weekly basis since 1936. It chronicles a superhero who has no superpowers but relies on his strength, his intelligence, and the myth of his immortality to vanquish his foes. And this film has still to this day not really achieved much appreciation from either critics or audiences if you look at its Rotten Tomatoes score. But despite failing at box office, it did achieve a huge cult following when it came out on VHS, and it has repeated TV viewings to back that up as well. Now, when I first saw this film as a teenager, I had a great time with it, and yet I was worried that as I grew up, I wouldn't like it anymore. So, let's find out. The Phantom starts with a brief recap of the titular hero's backstory. As a child, he watched his father murdered by pirates. He jumped overboard and washed up on an island where he swore to fight piracy and greed and was gifted a magic ring. Then we cut forward in time to 1938.
We'll go over on foot. All except one.
Watching this child drive that truck across the bridge really annoyed me. Not for any reason relating to the narrative, but because of the fact that when I went for my heavy rigid certification so I could legally drive trucks, it took me 3 attempts to actually pass the test. And this kid here, he just got the opportunity handed to him. Fucking hell, he didn't have to struggle like I did. The scoundrels venture further into the jungle to retrieve a special skull from a cave, and this triggers one of the skeletons to come to life.
It's not possible. Well, first of all, through God, all things are possible, so jot that down.
As they escape, in comes the Phantom to dispense justice.
Who was that guy?
Somebody I already killed.
What?
You heard me. I killed him years ago.
Somehow
The Phantom
returned.
The Phantom combats his villains in a long sequence of completely practical stunts. As someone who has a huge fatigue over the excess of Marvel media being thrown at audiences by Disney, it's nice to see such an old-fashioned take on the genre which relies on practical stunts instead of computer-generated animation. It also helps to make things more believable, lending credibility to the filmmakers and to the hero himself. The CGI is only used when it's absolutely necessary, such as when the characters are suspended from a bridge. Luckily, they managed to swing to safety.
The Phantom. It's nonsense. According to legend, he's immortal. Been around for 4 centuries.
I am immortal. I have inside me blood of kings.
The Phantom discovers that the skull in question was an artifact of special power.
When placed together, the 3 skulls harness an energy 1,000 times greater than any force or high explosive known to man.
I used to come here myself, Kit, to consult the chronicles for guidance and wisdom.
Huh, so the Phantom has his own Alfred and his own Batcave.
You turned over one of the skulls of Tuganda to the same brotherhood. They've tried and failed to get their hands on those skulls for the last 400 years.
Excuse me, Ghost Deluxe.
Oh, his Alfred is a ghost. How paranormal. Back in New York, we meet Diana Palmer, played by Christy Swanson, and Xander Drax, the head of the criminals that stole the skull.
Why go after me? I'm just a private citizen.
You own companies that regulate public utilities. You control the trade unions. You influence interest rates and stock prices. And you have personal and business involvements with the Zephyro crime family.
That and you look like Brad Pitt from the Inglourious Bastards, yet you sound like Timon from The Lion King. It's a very specific crossover.
You know what? How much does this newspaper cost?
2 cents daily, 5 cents on Sunday.
No. All of it. The building, the presses, the typewriters. Maybe I'll just buy the whole damn thing.
Not everything in life is for sale.
Of course it is, Dave. And I'll tell you something else. I usually get what I want.
Also, this scene was shot in the actual Playboy Mansion. They went all out for the production values on this film.
I've been able to trace the origin of that spiderweb symbol to a place called the Bengala Jungle.
This is a ticket for the Clipper. You're not thinking of going there, are you?
I don't know whether I can turn my back on Drax for that long.
Let me go for you.
When Diana flies over to Tuganda, her plane is accosted by Drax's team.
Happy now?
Catherine Zeta-Jones is a femme fatale? You're damn right I'm happy.
Catfight?
After the first action scene, we do have to wait a while for the next one, and the script in The Phantom doesn't try to rise above its reliance on tropes, nor does it try to pretend like it wants to flesh out any of the characters. The charms of the cast carry things along, and the film's pace is pretty good, but there is a bit of waiting around that goes on.
Do you realize how many laws you've broken? Disruption of international air transportation, abduction, piracy, kidnapping.
Ooh, feisty too.
Though Diana Palmer is not a complex character by any means, the fact that she refuses to be intimidated by the criminals means that she ends up avoiding being just another damsel in distress. And for a film which actively relies on tropes and conventions, the fact that it didn't give in to that cliche, that is to its credit.
Alright, gentlemen, nobody... Ladies, kindly pardon my error.
Jump! You can jump!
What is this, a ship full of women?
All my pilots are women.
Interesting. Excuse me.
Billy Zane has a flair for comic timing, and honestly, you never see it utilized in any film like it is in The Phantom.
Tie her up. Or don't.
You can't fight.
This is a rescue.
Thanks. You've done a good job. I can take it from here.
I can imagine watching this film as a young child. Now, I hated when they forced love stories into any movie that I was watching. So, if I was a kid watching a movie where instead of kissing the hero, the woman was determined to go and kick ass on her own, yeah, that would have made me very happy. As an adult, it still makes me happy. When our heroes get accosted, in comes the Phantom's wolf to help out. We get to see him return to form, kicking the film into its second action scene as he and Diana disable everyone around them. They fly off in a seaplane, but the villains shoot enough holes in the vessel to drain its fluid. Forced to make an emergency landing, the Phantom jumps onto his horse and is followed shortly by Diana.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I can't believe we just did that.
I can't believe it's not butter.
There was a moment there where they could have gone for a kiss, and the film didn't take it. And I respect them for not doing that. The chase continues as the villains pursue on wheels and horses, but the natives help out along the way.
How did you manage to get her away?
Diana did all the work, actually.
Not only is he mysterious, he's modest too.
I love the chemistry between these two. They support each other, they talk each other up, but they don't go for the cheap romantic drama. Yeah, they make for a good duo. Realizing the involvement of the Seng Brotherhood, namely the same pirates we saw in the intro, the Phantom has Diana sent home.
Wait a second.
Diana. Nobody argues with the Phantom and wins.
What went wrong?
The Phantom.
I thought that was just a superstition.
Oh no. He's real, and he won't die.
There really is the Phantom.
I know, I killed him once, and he isn't dead.
That doesn't make sense.
Look, I brought this to prove it. See this hole? That's where I stuck him with a 12-inch blade.
And the Phantom follows the trouble back to New York.
Tell me, Kit, where do you know our Diana from?
Well, we were friends at college.
I see.
Drax has come into possession of a rare artifact connected to the Seng Brotherhood.
It's an ancient silver skull with precious stones where the eyes should be.
Oh yeah, I've seen something like that before.
Where did you see it?
The Museum of World History.
Our heroes go to the museum where Kit claims the Jade Skull.
I'll take that, thank you. Who are you?
I'm Rick James, bitch!
It's beautiful! It's magnificent! Show me the power! Show me the power! Jesus wept!
With two of the skulls united, the Phantom mimics an iconic scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark and reveals the location of the third on a map.
And who is Kit Walker?
I am.
And what about the skull?
Thought it'd go well with my drapes.
Oh, cute. You're very cute, Mr. Walker.
That's gay. You're gay.
As Kit is being escorted off, he pulls a fast one on the villains and escapes, returning in his Phantom suit. I'm not sure where he was keeping that suit, but whatever.
Phantom's in the building.
What?
I saw him with my own eyes.
Alert your officers. Tell them there's a madman on the loose. He's armed and extremely dangerous. Shoot on sight.
Don't worry about a thing. I'll take care of it.
At this point in the film, I was wondering how nobody saw the connection between the fact that Kit wasn't around and yet the Phantom suddenly was, but maybe they were all wondering where he would have kept his costume. As the villains escape with Diana, the film finally gives us one more action scene as we pass the 1 hour mark. After narrowly escaping being crushed by an elevator and jumping across a series of cars to evade authorities, the Phantom finds himself pursued by police on an extended chase through New York, which features a nice number of motorcycle jumps. And eventually, with the help of a cab driver, he's able to reach a plane.
I love New York.
I could very easily make a certain joke right now about the fact that he said I love New York as the protagonist just took off in a plane, but instead I'm just gonna counteract his argument about loving New York by saying there's a reason they call that place a concrete jungle. I've been there thrice, and I don't know why I went the second 2 times. Grasping the wing of Drax's plane for a prolonged period, the Phantom follows his enemies to find the third skull, arriving at the cave of the Sang Brotherhood where they meet with the Great Kabai.
When was the last time that we had visitors here below the ocean surface, deep in the bowels of this uncharted volcanic island? Never. Congratulations. You pathetic doom fools are the first.
Cary-Hiroyuki Degawa seems to keep popping up on this series, but the thing that I love about him appearing in this movie is that he played Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat movie, and James Remar played Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So that's some kind of zany crossover.
There is no fourth skull.
The fourth skull controls the power of the other 3. And without it, you've wasted your time.
Now you tell me.
Unsurprisingly, the pirates aren't that sympathetic.
I once killed the Phantom.
Join the club. Many of us have killed him over the years. He keeps coming back.
The Phantom swings in to kick off the action climax when all the pirates of the Sang Brotherhood find themselves at odds with our heroes and Drax's team too. Realistically, if she's touching the blade, she should be bleeding right now. Either that or the Sang Brotherhood don't take proper care of their weapons, in which case, they're not the best villains. Through a nicely choreographed fight which makes use of Cary-Hiroyuki Degawa's skills as a martial artist, the Phantom dukes it out with Kabai. There's no tricks in the cinematography, no jump cuts, it's just good old-fashioned choreography.
It's crazy. You're just gonna be hungry again in an hour.
Drax, over here! What is it?
Oh, snap!
The Phantom reveals he has been carrying the fourth skull the entire time, challenging Drax to a duel with the two. And through the power of good, he's able to incinerate the man, triggering an explosion before escaping on the chain of a submarine piloted by our 2 female characters.
It all began 400 years ago, when a small boy saw his father savagely murdered by pirates of the Sang Brotherhood. And he became the first Phantom. I'm his descendant, Diana. The mantle of the Phantom was passed down from father to son. 20 Phantoms came before me.
The script makes a lot of hints towards the Phantom's backstory throughout the film, but it never explicitly outlines it until the final scene. And I gotta say, I respect the filmmakers for giving audiences enough credit. They titillate us, they give us ideas, but they don't explicitly outline us until the end. And they make sure to answer our questions without leaving us hanging. See, that's just good story structure right there.
Hey, Kit. I like her.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, damn, I thought I already reviewed Ghost Dad.
Take off your mask.
You know, I'm not really permitted to reveal all of my secrets, Diana. Well, actually, I am. That's only to one person.
Who's that?
The woman I intend to marry.
Our heroes finally share a kiss before saying farewells, leaving their future ambiguous. The end. Is The Phantom a good film?
Yes, I should think so.
Like I said, I enjoyed The Phantom when I watched it a decade ago, but didn't think it would still hold up for me as an adult, particularly given the reception it's gotten. But it really does. I enjoyed this movie. The Phantom is a shamelessly old-fashioned film. It's very indebted to the pulp adventure films of yesteryear, and it does its best to recapture that kind of thrill, but with modern filmmaking techniques and bigger production values. It's a cross between Tim Burton's Batman and Raiders of the Lost Ark, taking many narrative influences from the former whilst bringing in the style of the latter. And frankly, it makes for a good crossover. Ironically, the film was actually almost directed by Joel Schumacher, the man who helmed Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, two films that in good conscience I just do not enjoy anymore. Instead, they got the director of Operation Dumbo Drop and The Cup. Simon Winter's got a very long filmography of duds, but The Phantom sees him working at his best. He brings his visionary expertise over to this film, and he's working with a better script this time. Of course, it's easy to see why many audiences are likely to find The Phantom too old-fashioned for its own good. Its script is simplistic, it intentionally lacks much character development, and it doesn't offer any kind of groundbreaking ambition. But the way I see it, by refusing to exceed its narrative grasp, it tightens a grip on what it can achieve, and the result is a pleasant experience. The Phantom doesn't offer much of a challenge to its actors, but considering that most of its primary stars are actors with limited range, it plays to their strengths a lot better. Billy Zane has never been the greatest actor, but he's given solid villainous performances in films such as Dead Calm and Titanic, the latter of which he was actually cast in because James Cameron loved him in this film. For me, The Phantom ties with Dead Calm as his best performance. It's nice to see him as a charming hero for a change, and the role plays easily to his strengths. He's suave and charming without ever being hammy or trying for the tacky one-liners. He balances being a cheesy adventure hero with being a sophisticated, well-spoken man, and his physical dedication to the role was impeccable. While a fake muscle suit was constructed for Billy Zane, he spent a year toning a muscular physique so that he wouldn't need to wear it, and his physical presence in The Phantom makes him a convincing action hero whose achievements in the film never go into disbelief, with the exception of the magic-powered ring. Billy Zane is perfectly cast in The Phantom, and he delivers a memorable performance which rides the tone of the film all the way to the end. The role was originally considered for either Bruce Campbell or Adam West, and they both would have been phenomenal in the role, but they probably would have gone overboard with the campiness. I feel like Billy Zane gets it just right. The role was also considered for Dolph Lundgren, but he does not have the campy charms for the role. And then there is Kristy Swanson. I talked about Kristy Swanson previously in my review of Deadly Friend because I think she's a pretty bad actress, honestly. She was bad in that film, and I thought she was bad in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's had small bit parts over the years, like in Dude, Where's My Car, where she was fine, but when it comes to being a leading actress, I've never really seen her in a role that I've liked, except for in The Phantom. This movie brings out the best in her. She's an actress with limited range, but she is not without her charms, and in The Phantom they are on full display. She presents herself initially like a serial adventure damsel in distress, but goes against type by never amplifying her character's distress. She's not a deep character, but she's a strong one who refuses to be intimidated by the people around her and gets feisty when she needs to. Kristy Swanson holds her own on the screen, and the writing downplays the romance between her and Zane, which complements her character better. The two still share a solid chemistry, but the love story is downplayed much to the benefit of both the characters. Treat Williams makes a solid villain. He has such an etiquette to his line delivery, playing a character who perfectly represents capitalism. He is the bourgeoisie, a man with a clean image, but surprisingly villainous tendencies underneath. He talks himself up with theatrical line delivery, but also isn't afraid to get his hands dirty when he needs to. Rounding out the cast, we've also got James Remar doing what he does best, Catherine Zeta-Jones playing a femme fatale role perfectly, and a little touch of cary-hiroyuki Tagawa as yet another campy villain in a role that shows off his physical capabilities, which is always welcome. When it comes to the story in The Phantom, one thing I like is that the movie does not like to mess around. It does go through a typical number of talkative sequences to try and build up the story and give audiences exposition, and this is particularly heavy in the first hour, so if you aren't sucked in by the old-fashioned charms of the movie, then the narrative is probably going to get under your skin a little bit. But personally, I found The Phantom to move along at a brisk and tight pace. It's a short and sweet movie, constantly moving from one set piece to the next so that audiences can appreciate the lush range of scenery and production values that are on display. And with dedicated performances and a keen visual style, there is plenty of practical stunts to enjoy in the film without the explosive reliance on visual effects that dominates contemporary superhero films so much. The musical score is also gorgeous, providing audiences with a perfect adventurous feeling throughout. Though The Phantom isn't a revolutionary film in any way, shape or form, it just tries to be a fun time. It wants its audience to have fun with the movie. And me, I personally did. I also respect the fact that the filmmakers made an active effort to cut the romantic subplot out of the movie, almost entirely removing it, but leaving just a little bit, so that it could move along at a faster pace. And by doing so, it doesn't overreach. It doesn't try to do too many things or tell too many stories and drag things out. It just gets a tight grip on what it can get a good grip on. And as a result, I had an entertaining time. The Phantom gets 7 power rings out of 10. I put that ring on between takes just so that I could say that. What it lacks in ambition, originality, and character development, it makes up for with a sheer sense of fun, charm, beautiful visuals, and a talented cast led by the charms of Billy Zane at the top of his game. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. If you want to recommend any films to me, I almost messed up that line, please leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Slam evil.